What up, everyone? Today is Saturday. I just watched Francis Ngannou get robbed live on television. It was a great fight, though, and he got a win in my eyes. So I just want to take a look at Bitcoin today. We have had a lot of, drastic movement, and I just want to kind of go over things, get a little refresher, remind ourselves where we're at, and take a look at, the significant levels that we should be paying attention to. So we recently got this very aggressive move up above the weekly higher high. So we are potentially continuing weekly market structure here. For a little reminder, we broke weekly market structure bullish right here, put in a higher low, and then SFP'd the higher high. And from there, we got to move back down to the low to SFP that, showing that we were clearly ranging in this area. And yeah, now we have broken up above the high. Now, we have not technically broken weekly market structure yet because we have not closed a candle. So we still have 23 hours and 48 minutes from recording until this weekly candle closes. So I will be very interested to see where this ends up closing at. I think as long as we close above, like, let's say 33K, then it'll be a pretty solid break. If we start closing down below there, then, at that point things are getting a little iffy. It would be a very small candle body, very big wick. But right now we're, holding this 34K area. We've been holding this for a while. But I do think this close will give a lot of insight into what may happen next. If it's a very weak close, then I wouldn't be, super sold on us definitely getting continued upside here. But, if we close around where we're at right now, it's looking pretty good. Another thing we have done here is we have gotten above the value area low of the bull market range value area. So we were basically holding resistance on this area. I will make this line blue, and I can actually delete this one up here. So we were holding resistance on the value area low for a long time. We've finally gotten up above it. So just looking at it from a value area perspective, if we, are able to hold above the value area low, maybe even back test it before, holding it as support and continuing higher. If we do something like this, it could mean that we are now trading within the boundaries of this old range, and maybe we end up working our way up towards the high of the range again, and we can even maybe pull this back a little farther and see if that changes anything. But now the value area low is still in the same spot. So let's say we do get a bullish close here. Let's say we close somewhere up around this 34K mark. What are some significant supports that I would look at for us to potentially hold if we begin retracing at some point after getting that weekly close? Well, first off, very obviously, I think the value area low is an important place for us to hold. I also think that it is quite interesting that the value area low is lining up right with these very key highs. That makes for some nice confluence to the idea of a backtest of this value area low. We could also hold these previous highs, flip this resistance into support. So yeah, I think this area between like 32,000 and we'll say 30K is a very important zone. The most obvious area of support that we would want to hold. I don't think it would be a good look if we start falling back down below the value area low. It doesn't mean that, we won't respect this weekly market structure. Maybe we put in a very deep higher low and eventually come back up for those highs. But I think for upside in the short term, we would really want to see this area hold. So I'd say that is like the very obvious area of support that I am watching. And there is some confluence with this area. If I pull a fib covering this last very aggressive move that we got, pretty much starting from this low down here up to the high, you can see that the 0.5, which is, what a lot of people look for a strong retracement, you typically don't want too long a retracement unless it's at least around the 0.5, just because of the risk reward it gives you. You can enter a trade here, stop loss down here, target up here, and it's a 1-to-1. It's not a great trade setup, but that's a reason why a lot of people look at the 0.5. And yeah, the 50% retracement is coming in right around these highs and right above the value area low. So interesting spot for that to be, just another little bit of confluence. And you could also look at the value area of this range that we were trading in, pull it to the point where we broke out of the range, and I would also say that we definitely don't want to fall back below the value area high of this range. So, maybe if we come a little bit below the value area low of, that larger range, maybe it's just to retest the value area high of this range. So, yeah, if we get a very quick move down to this value area high and then a quick buyback, I wouldn't be too worried about that. I'd still consider that a good retest, especially if we can get back above the value area low and kind of like wick it on some higher time frames. So yeah, I'd say pretty much this zone between this high and the value area high of this smaller range is a zone that I would really want to see hold as support. So I can put a box around that area just to make it very obvious that I'm looking at this area for support. And I can pull up the coordinates for that if you want to copy those. That's my box that I'm looking at. Yeah, hopefully we don't come down to this box within the next day. I would like to see us close that weekly candle somewhere up here and maybe work our way down here later. That would be ideal because, if we don't get a strong weekly break, then I wouldn't really be paying attention to that support box anymore. So yeah, I want to see a strong break first, so ideally we close somewhere up here, and then I would look at this zone for support. And before I go over what market cipher is looking like, I'll really quickly run over some resistances that we could look at above us, just kind of pointing out the obvious ones. So, this zone between this low and this high is going to be very key resistance, I think. This is a retracement on the weekly time frame. It's like a weekly swing in market structures. So this whole zone is going to be very important. And we did just begin to tag into this area. We tagged the low end of it. So trying to refine it a little bit more, we do have this point of control up here that I think is a very important point. It's around the high end of that, weekly supply. And if you adjust the value area, the point of control changes. So if you pull this up to that high, then there's another high volume node down here around 38.6K. So yeah, both of these points, you can just see up here is a lot of volume as well. You can see it on this pull. Are just high volume nodes inside this range, and I think those are important levels. And you can also take a look at the fib pull from the high to the low. And you can see that the golden pocket is lining up right around this higher high volume node, the 48K one, so I think that's an important area to watch. The 0.5 fib is a little bit above this high volume node, so I wouldn't say that's great confluence. They're not exactly in the same spot, but you could just look at this whole zone right here as a zone of resistance. But yeah, anyway, those are pretty much my areas of resistance that I'm looking at, so I can put those in another folder. And now let's take a look at market cipher B. The weekly is still looking bullish. So far this weekly trigger wave is giving pretty good follow through. Money flow is putting in higher highs. Momentum is getting a pretty sharp move to the upside. And maybe when the weekly candle closes tomorrow, we can see this tick up above this high over here. I would not be surprised to see that. The white part of the wave is still widening, so it is, not showing signs of, topping out just yet. Looks like it has more room to the upside. So, weekly's still looking good. Overall, I think the thing that's most bullish is the money flow now continuing to put in higher highs after this trigger wave. And I would be really interested to see if this current momentum wave can get up above these two. I'd say more so this one, but maybe this one as well, just because these were a weekly bearish divergence. And I think I talked about this in one of my last videos, but I was not super concerned with this weekly bearish divergence because it was only a divergence with momentum, right? Momentum put in a lower high as price put in a higher high here. It was not a divergence with money flow. Money flow actually put in a higher high while that was happening and, was also coming up on the lows. And what I was saying is that oftentimes on higher time frames, when you see a divergence with momentum but not money flow, it can mean retracement, not necessarily reversal of the trend. And we did see a retracement. We came down to SFP the low. I think if momentum can now get up above these waves, that would kind of, void the bearish divergence and essentially, prove that theory right, that weekly bear div was just basically meant to create a retracement before continuing higher. because the money flow was still trending up. But we will have to see how the weekly closes. I think if we get a strong close here and we see the momentum really start to move to the upside, then I would be really feeling a lot more bullish. But there's still a chance that we start dumping within the next day, get a weak close. Maybe we even see another weekly bearish divergence here, stemming from this wave, possibly even this wave here, but it doesn't look like that would happen. It looks like this wave will get above this wave, but potentially we do still see a continued bear div from this wave back here. Now on the daily time frame, I think the daily time frame is looking pretty bullish. I'm not seeing anything that shows weakness. Money flow is continuing to put in higher highs. We've had this aggressive move up in money flow. It has, pretty much reached the highs that it was at over here. Maybe it put in a slightly lower high, but it does look like this money flow could continue to grow here. It doesn't look like it necessarily wants to just flop over here. So, yeah, in terms of money flow, it's looking good. And this momentum wave is also looking pretty good. It has put in a very notable higher high compared to this wave, also compared to these two waves, which were basically the highs of this previous range. We have put in a higher daily wave than anything we put in inside this range here, so I think that is a pretty bullish sign as well. And also we have put in a higher money flow wave than at any point inside of this range. This wave back here, this large increase in daily money flow, was actually before we entered this larger range. So yeah, right now money flow and momentum are at their highest point that they've been in since we entered this range. I think that is something notable on the daily. And as we go down to the more midterm time frames, like the 4 hour to the 1 hour, I'd say these ones are starting to show a bit of weakness. Not a whole lot to say that this looks like a swing top. I don't think that is really what I'm getting from these, but more so it looks like we may get a retracement at some point, especially based on this money flow starting to bleed out on the 2 hour. That could start to bleed over into the 4 hour as well. So it looks like a retracement is probable based on these midterm time frames. I am hoping that that retracement holds off for a little bit, at least until we close that weekly candle, though. So yeah, I'd say best case scenario is, we kind of hold our ground here at least until Monday. And at that point, I would really like a retracement down to some of the support that we got down here. All right, well, I think that's it for this video. Just wanted to do a general analysis, kind of go over some of the higher time frame stuff for Bitcoin, since we are getting some high time frame developments here. So if you enjoyed the video, please consider leaving a like, subscribing, leaving a comment. All of that stuff helps to support my channel, and I really appreciate everyone that does that. And I will see you all in the next video.